Hello, I'm Mike Adams and I'm Chief Executive of Purple. And today we will be covering top tips to make your website more accessible. And as we record the modules for this e-tutorial, never has access to websites been more important for disabled customers. And at a time of crisis where most shops, hotels, restaurants and towns are closed, websites are perhaps the only gateway into accessing information that is required and buying of products and services. And if your gateway, the gate is closed, then that will have a huge impact on and for disabled customers. So today what we're going to do is give you a few top tips on what you can do in the here and now and things that you can change at no cost, little cost, and very quickly that will open up your gateway to many more disabled customers. And just to put this in context, there was a report recently called the Clickaway Pound that estimated that UK PLC was losing just over 17 billion pounds a year through people clicking away from websites due to an inability to navigate and access the information that was required. That's a huge and substantial amount of money and lost revenue to organisations. And particularly at this point of time for the world, for the UK, this becomes a really critical issue. So, tip one. We know people, like myself, have mobility issues, which means making a mouse impossible to use. And therefore, being able to navigate a website with a keyboard is absolutely essential. And I tell the story of doing a conference a number of months ago where I said mistakenly at the start of my presentation that when you go home tonight, in order to identify how accessible your organisation's website is, log on to your website, take out your mouse and see how far you can navigate around your website using just the arrows. And of course, what people did was got out their laptops from their bag and did the exercise in the half an hour that I was then talking about all sorts of other things. And it was fascinating to see how many people realised how difficult it was without a mouse to navigate their website. Interestingly, a lot of organisations and websites use block capitals for stylistic purposes. But we are saying to you, please don't use block capitals unless it is absolutely essential. And I do not think it is essential to start every sentence of every page with the first line in capitals. Because if you are blind and use a screen reader, the screen reader will see block capitals as acronyms. And so in the case of Purple, it would, if we said welcome to Purple, it would say WELCOME. And quite frankly, for most people, they would have clicked off before they even knew they were on Purple's website. And these things can be changed in literally seconds. Tip 3. We know around 300 million people across the world experience some kind of colour blindness. So to ensure accessibility, avoid the following colour combinations: red and green, green and brown, green and blue, blue and grey, blue and purple, green and grey, green and black. And as a marker for you, what is really important is that you have contrast good contrast between the colours. And for a lot of websites, you enable your user to be able to choose those colours. And we're saying it makes a huge difference. And intuitively, we are seeing more websites that are navigating people using colours, particularly red and green. Well, quite frankly, if you're colourblind, you may get lost very quickly. And that's not to say you can't use colours. Indeed, you should. But actually, if you do, you need to use alternative ways and wording that people who need to use alternative forms can do so. Tip 4. Ensure you use fonts and styling that is clear and accessible to everyone. And what Purple recommends is, in terms of font, you use Calibri or Arial, and in terms of size, no smaller than 12. And for a lot of websites, again, there is functionality now that enables the user to change and use the font size that is required. Tip 5, really important one. Add alt tags to all your images. The way in which we receive and understand communication and messages is in a kind of multiple faceted way, and therefore pictures and descriptions are incredibly important. But actually, if you're blind and you can't see those pictures, then they need to be described so you don't miss out and you don't lose the context. And tip 6, add subtitles or captions to all video content as the default position. And I'm saying to you, it is in this day and age very easy to do, and I would not like to see any video now produced that doesn't have subtitles or captions. They are just a few hints and tips. One other I would add is ensure that your website has a sitemap, which always helps navigation. And if you go to Purple's website, we have some guidelines that you can look at in terms of accessibility. The one thing I will say to you is doing nothing is not acceptable, particularly in the environment we are currently living. So please prioritize talking to the right people in your organization and making sure that at least the top tips, the top 6 tips that we have covered today are implemented. And I can tell you all of them should be able to be implemented very straightforwardly, very quickly, and at little or no cost. Thank you for listening.